The one-page RPG Jam in 2023 was an absolute blast. And you know what comes after 2023? Obviously 2024, that's not a trick question at all. So in this video, I'll be discussing the many games I played, read through, and that just caught my eye while I was looking through the one-page Jam in 2024. So grab your pencils, your dice, notebooks, and a bottle of water because we are going to jam out to many of the RPGs that were released this year. One Page RPG Jam 2024 is an annual game jam hosted on itch.io, where participants are challenged to design a tabletop role-playing game that fits on a single sheet of A4 or US letter paper. The game jam runs from July 21st, 2024 to August 25th, 2024. And as of recording / writing of this video, there are over 450 plus entries, and there likely will be more even after the release of this video. Also, each year there's a different theme. This one is about transport, so you might see that reference in many of the games that I talk about, cover, or mention briefly. As for how I chose the games, it's quite simple. 1. It's games I played, rolled multiple characters in, made multiple journal entries in, and I put a bit amount of time in them. 2 is games I read. These are games I read through, obviously, and created sample characters and thought about. I didn't do too much of a deep dive on the mechanics. And thirdly are the honorable mentions / games that I just couldn't make the time / play simply because there are so many RPGs this year. With that, let's dive into the games I played. What if you wanted to live in a post-apocalyptic world where you were being hunted down by an unknown being? Well, an Unknown Journal by Morisiki captures that exact feeling. The solo RPG is about mysterious beings, or a being who has taken over the world and human bodies, meaning you don't know who is one of them. And with the collapse of the world, it's up to you to journal your experiences as you gather resources, encounter strange people, and fight off the monster. In my case, the player character was doomed to begin with. They had their water and resources ransacked by animals, but they also got a lot of ammo, but never found any food. And to this RPG's credit, I did not mind that at all, since I feel like it's really appropriate that a survival horror game is hard, difficult, and brutal. It adds this sort of harshness to the world that I think on first playthrough can be greatly appreciated. And also the design of the RPG is really pretty, with its interesting mechanic of using boxes of numbers as its resolution, or well, part of its resolution. However, not every adventure should be all doom and gloom and about survival of the fittest and all that yada yada nonsense. What if you wanted to play something more top-down? A game where you, as the game master or players, felt like gods in your world. Well, there is a game that's aptly named God's RPG that puts you as a god of a new world. It is a world-building narrative RPG where you take the role of a divine being who leads folks through their own cycles in life. You build a character's race, which includes their positive and negative traits, and guide them through life, growth, and their eventual death, to interventions and artifacts you as a deity create. However, the wording of the game is a little bit hard to understand, and there are no direct examples of how play looks like. So when I was running sample adventures or rolling out a race, I wasn't really sure if I was doing this quote unquote the right way or the wrong way. All right. Maybe you aren't looking for a game about gods and deities. Maybe you don't want something so esoteric, and instead you wanted something that was still just as stressful, still just as painful to deal with, and occurs every 4 years in the United States. Yes, I'm talking about American electoral politics. Ain't that just thrilling? I love electoral politics and getting to choose between a fair and just democracy that is working as intended, and everything is just so great and everything is just freaking fine, and I'm... Oh, sorry about that. I think something went off my recording stuff, or... Anyhow, the game's name is Kamala's Wacky Race by Rogue Centaur. Yes, as in Kamala Harris, the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024. This game, mind you, as the creator has said, was made and released within 4 hours after Biden's withdrawal on July 21st, 2024. So this release was purely coincidental. Trust me, I didn't believe it either until I read that part. And I'm all for it. The rules in the game are based off of M. Kieran's One Page Left RPG, which I covered last year. You roll a d6, and depending on the number, you are given a prompt where you write and discuss what that prompt gives you. The d6s stack, which means you descend downward on the table. In my case, I rolled 3 5s at one point, and since I rolled 3 5s, these are the results I got. One of them stating, you detail your plan to put in place federal protections for reproductive rights at a rally in Las Vegas. Draw the silly thing that the sphere turned into behind you that everyone online shared and talked about instead. And as you can probably see, a lot of these roles are humorous. They're silly. They give a sense of lightweightness to an otherwise god-awful political time we're living in. And that's kind of brilliant. In an advent of very serious games, I can appreciate a bit of comedy. Moving from the drama of electoral politics, let's move to the high drama of children's card games and Oracle decks. All right, don't click off the video yet. What if there was a game that combined both? You have TCG Oracle by Arsene Inc. In this game, you play as an invoker or summoner who conjures their powers from the usage of old trading card games. You use 2 decks, and these decks are built from, well, old trading card games. One is called a hero deck, and one is called an adventure deck, and you draw from both of them as you traverse the world. Your draws from your old cards inspire your journey by creating your spells, your character, and the moveset you use, as well as the other NPCs you'll meet on your journey. And on a conceptual level, this is really awesome. There's no game that utilizes old TCG cards to push forward the narrative. Yes, there are games that use a standard array of cards. There are games that use tarot decks. There are games that use Jenga pieces. There are even games that use dominoes. But I have not seen or played a game that uses old TCG cards as its way of creating characters. That alone deserves a reward of some kind. For instance, I used old Pokemon TCG cards that I had generated online because I remember having or collecting those cards as a very, very young kid. Meanwhile, I asked a friend to generate me a random Magic the Gathering card because, well, it's Magic. I don't know anything about it. And while I didn't understand exactly what it meant for the narrative, it was really cool to try it out and see the kind of stories I was creating while I was playing. There are also some games that have themes that just exude aura. And if you want a dark, badass, and quite frankly, cool, competent game with a competent world and theme, then check out Mini Boss by Sabbath. This game, first off, I think is just art. And you can see that from Sabbath's 10 years of experience in illustration and graphic design. The deep, dark blacks outlining fearsome beasts, and the whites that sort of create these shapes to create the beasts. And you can clearly see the inspiration from art styles like Shadow Dark and Morkborg. That inspiration art style wise just isn't from there. There's a lot of gameplay that takes place similarly using many other mechanics. For instance, character creation uses a 3d6 down the line, similar to many other OSR games. There's a class system that includes options like a knight, a thief, a mage, and a hunter. You can even make your own abilities in the game. There are also options to use degrees of success, which is directly from Apocalypse World. And the author states explicitly that some of their inspirations include Root the role-playing game and Watership Down. Overall, this game alone exudes pure, unfiltered badassery. What if instead of living in a dreary world based off Watership Down and Morkborg, you were playing a chosen one of arcane powers? Well, Rip Hero will satisfy the heroic tragedy you are looking for. You've been chosen to save the world, but your powers come at a steep cost. In order to manifest them, you must rip shreds from your body, thus the title of the game. If you rip the correct number needed to succeed, everything goes well, and you proceed on your journey to the portal. But oftentimes, ripping from yourself means less resources, and thus complicating the narrative. Thus, the action of tearing away pieces of your body for the quote-unquote potential of saving the world is amazing for solo RPGs. Yet, there are also some games and some heroes that don't worry about a tragedy. Rather, it's about breaking fate. Fortunately, Fate Breakers is a game exactly about that. This game uses a deck of cards and uses 4 attributes: stamina, social, dexterity, and wits. Whenever a character is about to do something risky or is about to fail, they can either 1. Break fate, or 2. Tempt fate. When you want to break fate, you pull from your attributes to succeed, while when you want to tempt fate, you draw from a deck of cards in order to, well, tempt fate. And I think this works very well because instead of dice rolling, you're using cards, which feels more like luck. One problem I do have with the game is that while its themes are awesome, it really could help from having an example, especially for tempting fate. The explanation is kind of confusing, so that would be really helpful. But what if you don't want to break fate? What if you want to go to a normal job about selling stuff? Caveat Emptor is kinda like that. You play as an assistant demon selling secretly cursed items to humans in Wittenberg, Germany in 1541. This is a solo journaling game about exactly that. Yet, let's just say, as an assistant demon, you're kind of on a timer. You may have pissed off upper management, and let's just say, if you fail again, you're cooked forever. This is from Emmy-nominated Excellent Press, Zone Botanist. This game is about dealing with the annoying human customers that come and go and trying to sell them products you know definitely will blow up in their face. The game explores the moral quandaries, or, well, the lack thereof, of your assistant demon working with a shitty retail job. But what if you didn't want to deal with all the stresses of working a bookstore and selling scummy shit to human beings? What if instead you wanted to create a game about being a cook, and more specifically, working at a food stall? Shark Girls Run the Food Stall is the cutesy, cozy solo RPG for you. You play as 3 sea creatures turned human who hope to score high and make it big before they have to return to the sea. It uses a standard deck of cards as its conflict mechanic. The suite of your card will determine your character's skills and unique personality. In my case, the group consisted of an ambitious manatee named Manny, a mordant whale named Wella, who's specifically a beluga whale, a spirited manta ray, whose name is Stella, and their stall name is Finn and Flounder Feast. And yes, I think it's a good name. Thank you, random name generator. From there, you draw a card switching from prep work and let's cook phases. Different results can happen over your 7 days cooking up a storm. In my case, the group met their rival, who was surprisingly nice, albeit a little bit too cocky for my taste. Really, this game is a lot of fun if you're looking for a cozy RPG that reminds me of Cooking Mama and other cooking-based RPGs of my childhood. But when you're finished cooking, what if you wanted to relax some cool tunes? What if you wanted to become someone who even created cool music? Furries in a Toaster is a solo RPG that will deliver to your ears. You play, literally, a furry who's trying to create music. You journal your experiences creating music using a number of cute tables to generate your character, generate music, and even song lyrics. I created this moth named Hatam, who has a hyper obsession with chiptune music, and more specifically, video game music remakes. Hatam wants to develop their musical skills, and does so in their parents' basement. He has a lot of arcade systems to match his weeby aesthetic and his so-called weeb friends. But that's okay. He uses his music and his beats to send a rhythm that will impress others and most certainly himself. This game is a hidden gem. A simple premise, but the wide diversity of characters and music options leaves so much to expand on. While I'm not musically inclined and I did not write lyrics, I really do think that if you're looking for a game that combines music, cute aesthetic, and maybe if you're a furry, this game will work perfectly. Finally, is a more serious game, Watermelon Seeds. I will read you the title/abstract of the game. Everything is calm in your city. The crickets start chirping and you are gently looking at the city skyline from your window until a roar breaks the silence of the sleeping city. You're seeing the bombs flaring in the distance, aiming your direction. There's nowhere you can hide or seek repair. You just have to accept your fate and pray, thinking about your life while everything you know is being destroyed, everything you love killed. The narrative to this game, from the page alone, tells you exactly what this is about. Free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free all oppressed people. With that, those are some of the games I played. Next is to the games that I read. The first game is The Vacant Lot. This is a solo game that will help you create your own sentient android. It is compatible with Cyborg and Corpborg. In fact, the game is part of a larger Kickstarter called Tower of the Vacant King. This looks to be like a module made specifically for Corpborg, which I think is really awesome since Corpborg definitely needs more modules. So I'm really excited to see what Tower of the Vacant King has to offer, and I recommend checking out The Vacant Lot if you really want to get started. Gun Dogs. The concept is literally in its title. You are a dog with a gun for a head. You were designed to be a machine of war, but you escaped your creators and fled on a small ship into space. Now, you seek vengeance on the humans who turned you into a living weapon. The game is based off of lasers and feelings, and you can pick your favorite dog breed as well as the creed you follow. A creed is your emotion or trait that defines your gun dog. It could be that you are fearless, or intelligent, or obedient. It's up to the players to decide. And your stats range from a 3 to a 9. Now, I have not played Lasers and Feelings, so I can't really speak on what that might look like in gameplay, but the concept alone is novel and just damn brilliant. Imagine playing a Chihuahua who's part Tommy gun, or a damn Rottweiler who's made of a shotgun. But what if you don't want an awesome game? What if you want something more chill? What if you want a game to tell you that you have to go touch grass? AKA reminding me that I probably should go outside more. Fortunately, Mushroom Courier will let me go outside more. In Mushroom Courier, you move from one tree to another and journal your experience touching trees and being a part of nature. You even take an active effort in picking up and foraging natural objects and journaling about the stuff you found. So, if you need a game to motivate you to go outside instead of rolling dice, then this is the game for you. Now, there are also games that remind you of your childhood, and Gotta Get Back is a rules-light RPG by Arcane Sorcery. In this game, you take on the role of a hero trying to time travel back to the past to defeat evil. Y'all, it is literally a Samurai Jack tabletop role-playing game. After you finish coming back from time travel though, what if you wanted a nice little dish? A little weird dish? Well, a tabletop game of weird dishes is exactly that. It's a game where you create weird and scary and kinda unnerving dishes that you have a feeling you probably shouldn't eat. For example, would you eat a dish that is thick and greasy, with hairy beef, and has boiled salt in it? No? In this game, you can play that kind of dish and give it to yourself or to your fellow players. And yeah, conceptually, I think it's cool because if you're running a horror game or you want to explore food horror for some reason, then I think this works perfectly. Plus, just look at this cute little guy. Look at him. Look at him. What if you had to be the guy who carried all the stuff for the adventurers in their grand journey to save the world or grand journey to steal stuff from a place that has apparently been quote-unquote abandoned? Good Castle Low, Arcano made the game The Journey Back. You play a porter or a hired hand who's helping the adventuring group bring back all of their loot. But the adventuring group died on the way. So In this one-page solo RPG, it's your job to get out of the dungeon and more so, get out of the dangerous situation and bring back the loot for yourself. Honestly, any game that redefines or is a spoof of D&D or fantasy RPGs always has a soft spot in my heart. And also the art is just really cute, as you can see here. So I would recommend giving it a try and checking out this one-page solo RPG. After you're done being a porter for some scummy adventures, why don't you try something else in the gig economy? Ride sharing. Fortunately, Rideshare Renegades is a do-it RPG made for, obviously, two. It's a tongue-in-cheek game about what if we had public infrastructure that supported buses, trains, and whatnot. But you had to order them via like Uber or Lyft. Really, this game is an awkward conversation between a driver and a drivee. And you as the driver have to manage the expectations of the drivee and vice versa. The game is largely roleplay based too, with a cool font and cool style of older Windows Vista, I believe. The biggest benefit to this game is that it has a clear example of play. I've mentioned this multiple times in the video prior, but I struggle a lot with learning new games, especially since sometimes what they write down does not always translate into my head. So it's really awesome to see that. Moving away from ride-sharing apps, let's move down to Cthulhian horrors for a moment. Have you ever thought about playing a Cthulhian horror who wears the skin of an ex-cultist? I know the answer was yes, because I don't know who would say no to that. Since you are interested, then check out Horrible Things in Human Skins. This is a D20 system where you play a Cthulhian horror, and it's your job to get yourself back to whatever Cthulhian horrifying world you come from by using your mouth and using your tentacles. Those are literally the two stats. I think just conceptually the game seems like a good comedic fun between multiple players. And I could definitely see myself getting a lot of joy from beating up stupid humans, sacrificing them, and inevitably destroying all of the planet for my own selfish needs. And once you destroy your planet, why don't you go find a new one? Good thing a perfect rock is the game that you're going to look for. As the opening page says, your home planet was destroyed. You are aboard the last generation ship, the sole survivors of your people. You must find a perfect rock, a new planet to call home. A Perfect Rock is a sci-fi world-building game where you are a rock collector. No, literally in the real world, you go outside and you pick up rocks and journal about the rocks you see and build a world from all the lovely trinkets you find outside. The game is inspired by Outer Wilds, Interstellar, and Subnautica. Overall, I love this game's concept and clear intentions. And using rocks you found outside is such a cute idea. It gives a new meaning to your neighborhood and lets you see your neighborhood from a different lens. Okay, so let's see the next game on my list. I'll be honest, I don't really know how to introduce this game. It is literally a game about Weird Al and is inspired by a 1,000-year-old vampire. Well, it doesn't look stylish. That's okay. The damn premise alone is really freaking wild, and it's 100% worth mentioning. Plus, I like Weird Al's music, what can I say? Switching from comedy though back to horror and sci-fi, what if you wanted a game that combined both Cthulhu Dark and Traveler Classic? The game, Traveling Dark, is perfect for that. One of the cool things about this game too is that it has a cool failure system. If someone thinks it would be more interesting if you failed, they, the person in the group, describes how you might fail and roll a black die. They cannot do this if it blocks the scenario from proceeding though. Now, on a conceptual level and on a narrative level, I find that really awesome that failure is a matter of conversation. It's an agreement between all the players and the game master at the table. That alone, I think, is worth taking into your own game or putting it into your game design principles. Or maybe just outright putting it in your Cthulhu Dark or Traveler Classic game. Of course, when I'm not thinking about horror RPGs or sci-fi RPGs or indie RPGs, I'm thinking about video games. And I kinda have an obsession with Dark Souls games and just games made by FromSoft. So when I found Hollow Hike, which is a pocket-sized Souls-like tabletop role-playing game, I knew this needed to be mentioned. It's literally exactly what I mentioned. It's a Dark Souls game put into a tabletop role-playing game on one page. It has a similar font, it uses many of the mechanics from Dark Souls, and for what it's worth, it just looks pretty as shown here. I recommend checking it out if you're a real fan of Dark Souls or Elden Ring. Finally, a game that I took a cursory glance to is World of Humanity. On my first reading of this, I just thought this was another world building game, and yeah, I like world building games, but I was thinking to myself, what makes this game? Oh, it uses Jenga pieces? As stated, 2 to 6 players use a tower block game to roleplay civilizations as they develop through ancient, medieval, and revolutionary times. So, this game combines 2 things I love. Jenga pieces, which I don't have any in physical form, and civilization. That is damn cool. Imagine building an entire civilization using Jenga pieces with all of your friends at the table. That is worth a story in its own right. Finally are my honorable mentions / games that just piqued my interest, but I just could not play or read. Hunk o' Junk. This is a story-drawn game about scoundrels trying to recover a spaceship. There's Heirloom, a game about how our lives are changed by the inheritances that we get. This is a solo journaling game. There's Caveman in a Strange Land, which is literally about cavemen bringing back a free lunch from the future. There's Ratagang, which is about a crime syndicate who are rats trying to survive in a shady and awful world. There's Octoratus, which is a 1 or 2 gladiator game about mechs versus monsters, and who doesn't love mechs and who doesn't love monsters? Drifters is a game about washouts who travel around the country in their beat-up car, surviving off of underground race prizes and other trinkets. There's Going Away, which is about road trips with your friends, family, and loved ones. There's also Digital Nightmares, which is a solo tabletop roguelike about hacking into a cybersecurity vault, all on one page. Also, the art is really cool and I love the pink. There is Sledborg, which you can guess it's a Morkborg iteration inspired by sledding and huskies in the Antarctic. League of Ordinary Gentlemen is a game about, well, ordinary gentlemen who have to fix the world. Le Kleptop is a crime detective game. You can play as the investigators who are trying to track down criminal elements or criminals, or you can play as the rogues who run the seedy underbelly of this mouse cybercrime society. Also, the art's really cute. There's Drifts, a solo cartography journaling game, where you play as a nomad journeying dunes and trying their best to remember who they are and why they're here. One Last Voyage on the Starlit Sea. This is a collaborative storytelling game where you and your friends play as a ghostly crew of folks who died as pirates. Seedwords is a book-based world-building RPG where you use multiple books to build the world, the plot, players, and conflict. My Annoying Neighbor. This game is about, well, annoying your neighbors and yelling and just being generally obnoxious to them. Literally, it's right in the title. Genre Savant RPG. You play as an archivist who draws powers from their favorite genres. You pull from the power of libraries. Taking the Scenic Route is a game about people, trains, and public transportation, and more specifically, about the struggles of managing and maintaining romantic relationships in a messy world with messy public transit. Varn by way of Karen is a hack of Knave 2E and Karen mashed together, thus the title of the game. Resignation is a game about resigning from your super duper toxic job and boss. 5 Tiny Gifts is a solo RPG about the small gifts that you get by those who admire and love you. Michigan Dogman is a game where you travel into the woods in search of the crypto creature Michigan Dogman, a beast both human and dog alike, who is known for its assumed danger to hunters. As a hunter, it's your job to find the Michigan Dogman and reveal it to the public, or die trying. Red Shift, Blue Shift Generations. This RPG is a solo journaling game about the trials and tribulations of interstellar generational ships. Also, the colors are really cool at the cover of this game. I think it's made by M. Kieran too. Finally, What the Sigma. Yeah, this is a hilarious, bizarre, and weird RPG about aura-maxing your way to peak brain rot and raising up the squad with you. I am not sorry about what I said. I said that. And that's only some of the RPGs I was able to cover. Trust me, there were lots. And I wish I could have covered them all, but I just can't. If there is an RPG that you thought deserved my attention, let me know down below in the comment section. One Page RPG Jam every year gets me so hyped. There really is a lot of creative work in this year's jam. RPGs that really push what an RPG can be, using different themes, pulling from previous popular games, making me go outside, and also just making me feel all sorts of emotions. That's why I love covering the many games that are featured. Funnily, from the creator of A Perfect Rock, they have some really awesome advice about pulling ideas together quickly and making a game. They say, first, play lots of games and play different types of games. 2, study those games and learn from their design. And 3, read about how other designers think and try applying those frameworks to your design. I'm not a game designer, but I hope from this video you learned a little bit more about the amazing world of indie RPGs and One Page Jam 2024. Better yet, if you want to support my work and the work of other creatives, please check down below in the description box where you can find all the games linked. A special shout out to my Patreon supporters, Harrison Parker and Paul Volpe, for your continued contributions. Finally, if you want to support my creative work and my channel, feel free to check out my Patreon over here, as well as my Ko-fi over here. And like and subscribe as you see fit. As always, I'm your average video queer host, Blurry Disposition. You all have an awesome day. Ciao.